Welcome. This is all minus one quick shots. Folks, yesterday I talked about the idea of us being born into slavery and not understanding how to live freely. Now, I meant this on a psychological level. Of course, the word psychology comes from the word suke, which actually means spirit or soul, more technically correct. And I talked about this on a spiritual level as well, which, if we examine the word spirit and kind of the ancient origins and roots of that, a lot of what spirit really means is your attitude, how uplifted you are, how downtrodden you are, or what is motivating you, what's enacting things in your life. So a bad spirit or a demon, of course, would make you do something bad, and a good spirit would make you do something good. Pretty simple stuff, but it's important to understand these things in this way. Now, does it mean more than that? Of course it does. Of course it means metaphysical things, things we don't understand, things that we are not aware of, cannot perceive. But aside from all that, I wanted to preface the conversation that way because I want to continue with this theme for the rest of the week, in that many of us have been beaten down, have been essentially told our entire lives that we are a slave in one form or another. Now, we may not be told that directly. In fact, most of the time we're told the lie that we're free. Now, I consider myself a free man because I live in Christ. But my freedom is at the cost of giving it all to God, including my very life, if it is called for. Some people will never reach that place or never come to that conclusion because they're afraid of their own death. See, they're enslaved by their very mortality, their very essence of their being. Some people will continually live as debt slaves, as debt cattle in the fiat money system, which runs the world. They will just be consumers. They'll produce some, but they'll consume more than they ever produce. And they will always be trying to produce more in order to consume more. Their life is caught up in materialism. And folks, that is a form of slavery in itself. And I don't mean being incorporated, embodied, that kind of materialism. I mean the materialism of wanting physical things. And there is no happiness in that, I can tell you. It will come to a bleak end eventually. You cannot take it with you. Another way that we enslave ourselves is by following the leader. Now, I believe very, very definitively in hierarchies. I believe in good leadership. I believe in decentralized command and control structures. I think that centralized control is where we always run into problems. We create tyrants and despots through that. And there's a scaling problem, folks. Frankly, you cannot scale up to a level of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people having one leader, or in the case of the United States, a few hundred leaders being in the Congress and Senate, as well as the president and their cabinet members. A few thousand people running things for over a quarter of a million, or sorry, not quarter of a million, sorry, a quarter of a billion. And we have well over a quarter of a billion people in the United States. This scaling problem is very real. And when we give over ourselves to leadership and we do not take things on for ourselves, we do not take direct personal responsibility, what we do is we enslave ourselves to others. Now, we could get into a semantical debate here about the language I am using, and we could talk about some deeper philosophical meanings behind these words. But one thing I want you to understand is that You are not enslaved to your neighbor or anyone that you are voluntarily under contract with. That is, someone that you offer your services to or they offer theirs, and you both agree on the terms of service. Unlike Facebook, Google, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, who constantly change their terms of service. In a real relationship where you are not enslaved, you actually can walk away. And that's the key here. That's the key, is what can you actually walk away from? Who actually holds power over you? And so again, for me, I'm willing to go to my death. But I have Christ. I know that I'll be fine. I faced my death as a very young man, as a 21-year-old or so. I was 21, over in Iraq. I knew as we went in, I remember having a conversation with my parents. Hey, if something happens to me, just go down the list on my cell phone, call my friends, and just let them know. That was back before text was really a thing, or it was extra, whatever. In any case, that's not a conversation that you have with your parents until you first have it with yourself. Hey, I'm a combat Marine. I'm an infantryman. I run at bullets. I'm a shooter. Don't know what the other guy's doing on the other side. I'm trying to keep myself alive, but things happen. I might die. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, one, that means because I'm being proactive with that, I don't fear it anymore. I'm looking it in the face. What that also means is that I accept the reality of that. I might die, and I might have friends that die. And I've never really had any issue or problem with death since doing that. It just is part of life to me. Memento Mori, as I often bring up, remember that you shall die. You too one day shall die. So with that, and a reminder of that, something I often talk about in my longer segments is, of course, the Great Koof. Now, I just spent a weekend with the full spectrum warrior, Rich Graham, and he had a civilian little training camp going on. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool, very God focused. And I was just watching one of his stories on Instagram because he just traveled down to Brazil to do some training to teach some police or armed forces or whoever he was teaching down there, because this is what he does for a living now. And he was talking about all the signs, the 6 feet apart, the wear your mask, do this and this and that, and then talking about how you have to get a test in order to get on the plane, and how that they weren't cleaning anything, they weren't sanitizing anything, they weren't changing out their gloves, they were contaminating whatever. You're talking about a guy who's a former Navy SEAL. He understands hazmat, right? He understands biological, nuclear, chemical warfare. Trust me, I do as well. We were trained in that stuff quite often. When I was in Iraq initially, it was first wave in 2003, and we were wearing MOPS suits, that is chemical protective suits, and donning gas masks. In fact, I woke up at 9 a.m.-ish, 9:30, whatever time it was, local time there, to half awake, half asleep, because it was really hot, and I was just chilling. And I'm like, wait, I know what that sound is. And then the boom, and the whole earth shakes, and everyone dons and clears their gas mask because we're afraid that we're going to, be attacked by VX or something. Like the things that we're doing now are all a farce, folks. They're not real. And I know many of you might be, I don't mean to shame you or anything, but the housewife, it doesn't know any better. You just watch the news and I'm so scared. Look, guys, you need to have a break with reality. And what you're actually doing is you're mentally enslaving yourself to a narrative that is false. Now, I think that this thing is real. I think that it's been going around. I think it's pretty much for most people a really bad cold, and like a lot of bad colds, some people get pneumonia from it and some people die. And I think a lot of the policies that have been enacted by our so-called leaders, because we have that scaling problem, I think a lot of them made some really bad choices, or they made choices on purpose that they knew would help them at some manner or another with financial relief or something else of the sort. Or perhaps they had more nefarious reasons. I'm not going to get into it and speculate on this, but what I do want you to think of is, what do you do? What do you do in your everyday life, including this whole pandemic stuff, that you are enslaved to? What keeps you from acting and being your true self? And I don't mean be a jerk. I mean be authentically you. I mean, so many people just hold themselves back from being authentically themselves. I probably did this for a long time when I was younger, and finally I got to a point where I was like, no, whatever. You either love me or you hate me. I'm just going to be me. But really think about this, because most people are enslaved by their own minds, by themselves. And something I bring up often, Solzhenitsyn talks about this, is the only thing that needs to be done for us to basically have change is to stop living the lie. And there are many of you out there who know it's a lie, but you live it to go along and get along. And I find that very cowardly, if you would. I'm not the bravest guy ever, per se, but when it comes to things like that, I don't get it. And the fact that you're listening to experts, literally pseudoscience, because I go through the numbers on my channel, guys. I look at stuff. I look at the details. This thing we know. We've known all about it since way back last year, and the end of March, beginning of April, by beginning of May for certain. We knew everything we needed to know. And then we have other folks coming out saying, oh, well, we're actually going to use this as an excuse. Great reset. And for me, I'm saying no. I'm not going to be enslaved to your system. I'll go and live off in a breakaway society. I'll go figure it out. I'm going to be a remnant. I'm going to build communities. I'm going to do things because I'm a free man, and I will not participate in this whole enslavement of my mind, or the debt slavery, or anything else. I'm just not going to do it. So in any case, not to keep going on about it, but just think about those things. Like, what do you allow yourselves to be enslaved to, and why aren't you free? Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about how you can learn to be free, how you have to be very conscious of it, right? You have to think about it. You have to start analyzing yourself deeper inside. But I'll go into all those details tomorrow. Hey, guys, go check out my live show later on this evening. That is The Ends Justify the Memes. It is on a separate channel on YouTube, or also over on DLive. We go live at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking a little bit about our training. We'll be doing memes, as we always do, in our little real fake news. And we will have our friend Don the Pleb on, who you may know, who has a pretty good YouTube channel. You should watch. He streams a lot, interviews a lot of folks. He's a good dude. And if you want to see two Marines get together, two old jarheads, just cut it up, because that's what we do. No matter how pogy you are, Marines are Marines. We just get along. In any case, folks, that's all I got for you today. I hope you all are blessed today. And hey, this has been All Minus One Quick Shots, and I wish you all well.